The Soviets had a deal with Germany, and America, they wanted nothing to do with it. Britain was well and truly on its own, the last one standing.
And in this unbelievably dark hour, the nation's leader, Winston Churchill, he just draws a line in the sand. No deals, no surrender, the only way out is through. This speech, it was basically a promise that this island would fight to the very end.
So what was Hitler's response? A plan called Operation Sea Lion, a full-on invasion. But before his troops could even think about crossing the English Channel, he had to do one thing first. He needed to own the sky. And, looking at the numbers, it seemed like a foregone conclusion. The German Luftwaffe was this huge, experienced air force. They had almost 4 times as many planes as Britain's Royal Air Force. On paper, this should have been over in a week.
Just to give you a sense of the scale here, look at this number. 1,120. That's how many German planes, fighters and bombers, were sent in a single day on September 15th. This was meant to be the knockout punch. But the knockout punch never landed. The RAF, fighting for their homes, their families, they met that massive wave and they broke it. An absolutely stunning victory. And it really shows you something, doesn't it? There's a huge difference between an invader fighting for conquest and a defender fighting for survival. So, having failed to break Britain's defenses in the air, Hitler makes a monumental decision. He puts the invasion on hold and turns his attention east. And this was a mistake that would ultimately cost him everything. So instead of finishing the job with Britain, he unleashes this gigantic 3-pronged invasion of the Soviet Union. It was a colossal gamble. He was opening a second front, while the first one was still very much active. Britain's defiance had basically forced him into making this catastrophic error. And where did that lead? Stalingrad. The fighting on the Eastern Front was just unbelievably brutal, and it bled the German war machine dry. That surrender of 300,000 troops, that was the real beginning of the end for the Third Reich. And none of it happens if Britain falls a couple of years earlier. So when you look at the whole picture, that long, painful history of being invaded, it wasn't a history of failure at all. It was the very fire that forged the nation's character. It created this incredible resilience. The island that had spent 1,000 years absorbing conquerors had learned, deep in its bones, how to survive. And in 1940, that hard-won lesson changed the entire course of the war. Which leaves us with a pretty powerful question, right? How much of a nation's strength is actually forged by its oldest scars? It's wild to think that the very history of being conquered could become the secret weapon in a country's darkest hour. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.